social media platforms at TV3 Ghana Plus on DSTV channel 279. In the bulletin this afternoon, the Attorney General says that the police have not received any evidence supporting the allegations in Professor Frimpong Boateng's illegal mining report. We have the updates. Also coming up, leaked tape probe resumes in camera. We're live in Parliament for the happenings there. Plus, experts of the Ghana Economic Forum call for constitutional review to address the country's rising debt stock to ensure business growth and sustain the economy. We'll go live to the forum. We'll bring you some international news this afternoon as voting is underway in Liberia in a fiercely contested presidential election, with former football star George Weah, with 57, making a second-term bid. We have details of these stories and a lot more coming to you shortly. My name is Noble Crosby, and a news desk coming in indicates that the Office of the Attorney General and the Ministry of Justice says Professor Frimpong Boateng's allegation in his report on illegal mining activities in the country are empty and do not have evidence to prosecute the persons named in it. It follows the conclusion of its review of a docket submitted by the police on the allegations contained in a 36-page document written by Professor Frimpong Boateng entitled Report on the Work of the IMCM So Far and the Way Forward. The Attorney General has thus asked the police to discharge the persons mentioned except those still under investigation. Let me walk you through some of the highlights in the Attorney General's document, and you see that it says that the allegations by Professor Frimpong Boateng lacked evidence. That is the advice the Attorney General is giving to the police, also saying that the named individuals denied the allegations leveled against them by Professor Frimpong Boateng. Also, the Attorney General says Professor Frimpong Boateng didn't provide substantiating information, meaning that he declined to offer any written statement. Also, further information, he declined to do that. We'll go to the next page and we'll see more of what the Attorney General is saying. He's also saying that additional documents that he received were irrelevant to the case that he was investigating. But there are exceptions to this. We'll get into the details. Exceptions were Seth Mante, Wanjono Furiata Ekousi, and that needed further investigation. And as we speak, that is still ongoing. And pen drives had no specific naming. So according to the Attorney General, he received some pen drives from Professor Frimpong Boateng, also from the work of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation that had this interview. It's also saying that the Attorney General recommended clearing named individuals. That is the latest coming, that all the named individuals who denied the allegations should be cleared. And there's also the ongoing investigation for Seth Mante, Jono Furiata, and Eko Ewusi. These are names that are needing further investigation in the report. Let's speak with my colleague, Sisters Don Olo. He's joining me in the studio with details of the report by the Attorney General. Sisters, good to see you. Good afternoon to you. Good to see you, Crosby. You've been going through this advice from the Attorney General. Bring us the backstory, then we'll look at the points that have been raised by the Attorney General.
So you'd recall that in March this year, this story made the headlines, where the former minister made serious allegations and revelations concerning work that he was supposed to do in his capacity as minister in charge of the environment, science and technology. And the fight against illegal mining had also peaked at the time. And he was put in charge of an interministerial committee on illegal mining.
Right.
Now, his job was to identify illegal mining spots, identify the stakeholders, map out, an action plan against illegal mining, and ensure that the fight against illegal mining, we won that battle.
Right.
In that report, And he made that revelation in an interview on GTV.
Right.
Where he was speaking, they were interviewing him about him, his personality. And at the tail end of the interview, he mentioned his work on the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. And he mentioned two categories of people who, the first category, he said, were implicit in the fight against illegal mining because they themselves were involved in illegal mining. The second category of persons, he said, were government officials or influential people who impeded his work against illegal mining.
Right.
Now, we can look at the names that he mentioned. For the second category, and you find the name of the Honorable Information Minister, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, in that second category. Again, you find the name of Gabi Asare Ochiridako in that second category.
Right.
And you would find the name of Kweku Bako Jr. in that second category. And these were persons he describes as persons who impeded his work as a chairman of the committee.
Okay.
Now, people he said were complicit in illegal mining. A long list of names he mentioned. And we have Charles Ni Tego, Teko Tego, Frank Esiedu Bekwe, also known as Protozua, Honorable Joseph Albert Kwam, Charles Ousu, Kojo Ousu Efriye,
right.
Captain Retired Edmond Kojo Koda, Donald Enchui, and another person, a former member of parliament who hasn't been named. So these are the two category of persons that we see in that report.
Okay, so these are the names mentioned in Professor Frimpong Boateng's report. And after investigations, the Attorney General is advising the police service that they denied the allegations leveled against them?
Again, per what we are seeing from the advice, it tells us two things. The first thing is that the police took up the matter from where Professor Frimpong Boateng mentioned and went in for documents from the good professor, summoned the people to come and answer questions on the documents and the allegations that had been leveled against them. The people denied all the allegations that had been leveled against them, and that is where it ended. Now, the report does not tell us whether the police went out of their way to independently verify some of the things that were told them. We are not told from the report that we are looking at. Again, we are told from this that Professor Frimpong Boateng refused to cooperate with the police on any further investigations. They said he had declined giving any additional statements and told the police and the investigators that the report that he had given was sufficient. But again, going back to the statements that we are seeing from the advice, it says that it was not sufficient to warrant a prosecution, and so they needed more. And that is where the question comes, whether the police itself, as part of the investigations, went out of its way to try to investigate some of the statements or allegations that had been made, beyond questioning the individuals who have been mentioned in that report. That hasn't been answered. But there's an elaborate quote about the refusal of the good professor to cooperate. Let me read that. The professor refused to provide any further information to the police. He also declined to give a written statement, claiming his report is an embodiment of his statement and all the information he has on the allegation. And the conclusion the AG draws from that is that the allegations, quoting, are therefore bare and do not provide a basis for any criminal charge against the persons cited in the report. That's the advice.
Sixtus, thank you so much for joining us with those updates from the latest advice from the Attorney General with regards to the 36-page report from the former Environment Minister, also the former chair of the Interministerial Committee against the Illegal Mining, Professor Frimpong Boateng. They'll be having more conversations on the back of this. But in the meantime, lawyer for the Inspector General of Police, Kwame Jan, says his client will not tolerate acts of bias from the chairman of the committee, Samuel Atacha. He made these comments before the in-camera hearings of the leaked audio tape in Parliament.
Who is a witness? So a witness is calling witnesses to come and make depositions and give testimony. So we are here.
In the interview, you told me that you're not going to miss words at all.
I told you today.
Well, let's speak with Duke Mensah Opoku, who is joining us live from Parliament on updates on the happenings as the committee also sets to investigate further the tape. But let's talk to you about the expectations of today, and you see that on your screens at the moment. So today, there's the expectation of the re-examination of the witnesses and the IGP. There's also a review of the evidence on fresh tape. Confrontation on allegations of bias that is coming, particularly against the chair of the committee, and cross-examination of the witnesses. This is the agenda for the leaked tape probing hearing. We'll see how that goes as we speak with my colleague Duke Mensah Opoku from Parliament. Duke, thank you for joining us in the program. A busy day it will be in Parliament today. We understand all of these are on the table, but from where you sit and so far, what has been the levels of engagement between the committee members, the witnesses, and the media there? Have we seen all the witnesses come as of now? And what have they been saying? What is the general mood there like? We'll try and reconnect with Duke Mensah Opoku. But let's remind you that this is what we're looking at today, a re-examination of witnesses and the IGP, also a review of evidence on fresh tape. We're also looking at some two other important happenings that you'd see on your screen shortly as part of the agenda for today, and that should appear on your screens at the moment. The Inspector General of Police is expected to also be there. There's a cross-examination of witnesses also expected today. That is part of the agenda for today's in-camera hearing of the committee probing the lead IGP audio tape.
Crosby. George Crosby, you see the cars filing past the main entrance of the Job 600 building in Parliament. The IGP has just exited that meeting with the bipartisan committee probing the tape, the leaked audio tape, where there is a plot allegedly to remove him or oust him from office. He's been in that committee, he's been with them for the past 2 hours, being re-examined, and there is all the members are in that committee. So as we speak, they have, the IGP, we are told, has an equally important national assignment to attend to. So he has been granted leave to leave the committee, but his lawyers are still there. COP George Alex Mensah is there, DSP Asare is there, Superintendent JB is there. All the people who matter, the witnesses, Bogri Nabu came in a little after 10 o'clock. So all the people who matter in this case are there, but they are locked up in an in-camera meeting. The IGP was there, but he had to take his leave. You can still see some of his cars filing past, going back to the police headquarters, where we are told he has an equally important national engagement to take part in. Earlier on, the IGP lawyers had cause to complain about allegations of bias against the chairman of the committee. They believe that some of the comments that he's made are prejudicial. They go to the heart and the merit of the matters at hand, and such comments should not be coming from the chairman of the committee. They've indicated their opposition to his comments publicly, and they say they would also make those comments again to him directly when they meet him in person in that in-camera hearing. So we await what the briefing will be, because we have an agreement with the committee that there will be a briefing after the in-camera hearing, where we'd like to ask all the questions that have come up in relation to this IGP hearing. So yes, the IGP has just completed his hearing and he has left the committee. The others are there, his lawyers are still there, and the conversation is still going on. We await for them to complete the hearing for today, and we would have the opportunity to get a briefing from the chairman and also ask some critical questions. So that's what's transpiring here in Job 600. The in-camera meeting is happening on the 10th floor, and discussions are still underway.
Duke, thank you so much for those updates from Parliament. We'll get back there for the happenings after the committee concludes its hearing today. In a related development, the embattled retired police officer, COP Alex Mensah, has disclosed that he will tell it all when he appears before the parliamentary committee probing the leaked IGP tape as the committee resumes sitting today, October 10. He spoke exclusively to my colleague, Kemini Amano.
When we went to the committee, we said the tape has been edited. And the chairman of the committee came out to say that, yes, the tape has been edited.
Well,
it's good that you said allegedly.
It seems to me you're in a hurry to be vindicated.
Of course, I'll be vindicated. I know.
We'll see how that goes.
I know what happened.
You know what happened?
Yes.
What happened?
I'm not ready to say it here because it is before a committee.
So let's talk about some of the things that we have heard at the committee hearing. You have admitted that your voice was on the tape.
I will be happy if you drop what is going on before the committee, because it's a parliamentary select committee which was initiated by the Speaker of Parliament. And I don't want to do anything that will be
that will preempt the sitting. No, we are not going to preempt the sitting.
Let's drop that and then go to other things.
What I want to clarify is based on my previous question.
That
about allegedly you being on that tape. Now, what I want to know is you have admitted that that meeting happened. You have admitted that part of those tapes that we have heard is you.
Yes, of course.
Why did that?
There were truths.
There were truths.
None of the things in the tape was a lie.
Okay.
Or what I said the truth. And I'll say it again anywhere. But I'm not ready to discuss it here, as I said. Because it's before a committee.
Right.
And I hope you wait when the committee finishes their work and comes out with their report.
Right.
Then everybody will know the truth.
Indeed. So, again, I'll just come back to, what we've heard so far from the committee hearing real quick. At the hearing, we hear you, again, talk about how poorly you think the current IGP is running and managing the police service. First, I'd like you to elaborate on that. But I'll also ask you, if you have worked under the IGP for the last few years, maybe several even, and you have kept all of these things still while you're in the service, it's easy for someone to conclude that you were embittered against the man.
That is somebody's conclusion. But you know why I will not elaborate? Because I was asked the same question at the committee, and I told them that I will do that in camera. So I cannot come and do that here. You understand? Yes. Something that I told the committee that I will do that in camera. That is why the committee has now moved in camera. So why should I come and say those things here?
But a few things that you said.
A few things that I said there.
I just want to remind
I've
you.
said it already.
I'll remind you of those
Yes.
things that you said. You talked about how some POMAB members were not invited. The Police Management Board were not invited to meetings. You also spoke about how he was gagging everyone else in the police service. He's come out to explain that the reason he had done centralizing communication was so sanity will persist within the service. Is that a reason he's given you before, since you said you've confronted him with some of those things already?
I'm happy that you are reminding me of what I said. What I said, I've said it already. I need not repeat it anywhere. You understand? Yes.
No, I'm not asking you to repeat. What I'm asking you is whether or not, because again, at the committee hearing, you mentioned that this is something you had told the IGP yourself because you're a very candid man. What was his response to you back then?
His response?
Yes.
No, that is something I will not say it here. It's something I will say it at the committee.
To some other subjects this afternoon, and the minority in Parliament has described the IMF program currently being implemented by the government as a failure. The IMF, after its first review, has given Ghana a clean bill of health with a staff-level approval for the release of the second amount of money, $600 million. But the minority argue that Ghana's economic situation has worsened. The IMF team was in Accra to discuss progress on reforms and the government's policy priorities in the context of the first review of Ghana's 3-year program under the Extended Credit Facility. The arrangement was approved by the IMF Executive Board for a total amount of $3 billion on May 17, 2023. According to the IMF, Ghana's economy is showing signs of stability.
But what makes us very optimistic is that these actions are already generating positive results. Growth in 2023 has proven more resilient than what we were initially envisaging. Inflation has declined. The fiscal and external positions have improved. International reserves are increasing again, and exchange rate volatility has significantly reduced.
But the NDC MPs disagree.
All that has been going on is basically playing with the emotions and the livelihoods of Ghanaians and using PR to foster that. How do you look Ghanaians in their face and tell them when they are losing this rapid deterioration in their purchasing power that there's a turnaround? And so we expected that at this review, we would have seen some modicum of improvement.
The minority spokesperson on finance and ranking member on the Finance Committee argued that even interest rates are worse off despite the implementation of the Domestic Debt Exchange Program.
The data is quite clear that the situation is worse today than it was last year. And yet, we would want to believe that last year was the worst period, that after the IMF in 2023, it will get better than last year. But the data suggests otherwise. You can't take end-year inflation of 2022 and compare it to any of the inflation other than December 2023. You can't compare food inflation in a period of harvest to food inflation in a period of planting. They are two completely different things altogether. The comparison they are doing, using in-period inflation to compare to December and clap for themselves, is an act of futility.
Away from that, the aggrieved customers of defunct Gold Coast Fund Management Company have begun picketing at the Ministry of Finance. They are demanding that the Finance Ministry authorizes the release of some 8.6 billion cedis bailout package approved by the legislature to their members. In 2021, Parliament approved a 5.5 billion cedi to settle owed customers of the fund management companies. The funds are yet to be disbursed to the customers. My colleague Judith Brown is following up on the happenings at the Finance Ministry. She's joining us with some update on the latest development there. Judith, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Talk to us about the happenings there.
Right, and so currently I'm at the Finance Ministry, and you can see behind me some members of the Gold Coast Fund Management Company. Of course, these people are investors. They invested back then in before 2019. That is before the company's license was revoked. Currently, their demands are simple. They want government to pay them the remaining 5.5 billion that it owes them here and now. Many of them are some pensioners, and for years they have been dependent on their family members, their friends for their upkeep, and they haven't been able to pay their bills. We're talking about medication bills. They're talking about housing bills. They're not been able to pay any of these things. They are depending on their families to cater for them. And so it's not been easy for them at all. And so they're demanding that government settles their monies right here and right now. They've brought in some tents. They've brought chairs. They're sitting right here. They plan to picket for the next 48 hours until government heeds to their calls. Yes.
We are the aggrieved customers of Gold Coast Fund Management. Customers who did investment with Gold Coast Fund Management, owned by Dr. Fagosindo. The company collapsed as a result of the government policy, financial cleanup exercise. After the collapse of the company, the government made us submit our claims of investment through the various banks of consolidated bank across the nation. After that, the Securities and Exchange Commission came out with a budget of 8 billion Ghana cedis to pay 47 fund management companies whose customers fell to the financial cleanup exercise. After this budget was made, the Finance Ministry and the government allocated these monies in the mid-year 2020 and 2020 main budget. And in fact, they top it up to 8.6 billion. It means that in excess of 600 million. After this 600 million was budgeted for and approved by the parliament, the first tranche was done in 2020 mid-year budget. That was 3.1 billion. The government used it for something that is called partial bailout, which saw investments which gave each investment 50,000 Ghana cedis. Now, the remaining 5.5 billion was approved in 2021 main budget. When that approval was done, there has not been disbursement. But all documents available from the Finance Ministry and the government in the Parliament House and the public domain indicates that the government has spent 26 billion in paying out customers who fell victims to the financial cleanup. And when you try to digest the component of these 26 billion that the government claims it has spent, our approved 8.6 billion that's supposed to pay fund management customers in full has been calculated as part of the 26 billion that has been spent. Meanwhile, this money did not reach us. That is why we are here today to demand our immediate payment from the Finance Ministry. Since they claim that those monies have been spent, they have to give us the money right here because they have created bank accounts for all these customers standing here across the various branches of the commercial banks. And therefore, we expect them to advance money to the commercial banks for them to credit our accounts within these 48 hours that we are going to tell you here. Then
so those are the frustrations, and that is coming from the convener of the group, Judith. But talk to us about what has happened since they got there. Has anybody from the Finance Ministry met them to receive their petition?
Right, and so earlier this morning, around 11 a.m., we saw that one person from the Finance Ministry had come to speak to the convener. He asked that they come inside, that's the leadership of the group, come inside and have a meeting with the Finance Ministry. But just a few minutes ago, we had them coming out and they were very much angry. They say that they've been there for hours, they've been sitting there idle. No one has attended to them ever since they came to call them for this meeting. And so they just had to walk out. And so they're waiting to see what happened, whether or not the Finance Ministry will really address them. But for now, nothing has been told to them. And so they're going to be, yes, picketing for the next 48 hours.
Thank you. Judith Brown is my colleague there, bringing us updates on the Gold Coast Fund Management picketing at the Ministry of Finance. Away from that, the Majority Leader in Parliament, Osei Mensah-Bonsu, says he was surprised when Alan Kyerematen pulled out of the NPP flag-bearer race and subsequently resigned and formed his party. The Suame MP wants the NPP to continue to engage Alan as he believes it is possible for him to come back to the party, saying the ideology of the party is still clear to the former Trade and Industry Minister.
I was surprised by his resignation. When he pulled out of the race, I thought the party should be engaging him. And the party chairman tried his best to do that. Unfortunately, he did not succeed, and he pulled out of not only did he pull out, but then eventually ended up saying that he had resigned from the party. I still think that human as we all are, it is still possible to call him back. My Bible teaches me, Christ Jesus it was, who said to us that if you have sheep numbering 100 and one goes missing or goes astray, you leave the 99 to fetch the one that has gone astray. So I think that every effort still must be made, even if there is a 1% possibility. Let's see what will come out of it. And then we'll see if it's possible to bring him back. If he doesn't, and says to us that I'm done with the party, I'm going my own way, that would be his choice. But I still think that we must do everything possible to see if he could come back.
You're watching Midday Live on TV3. My name is Noble Crosby, and we're back with more stories after the break. Please stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint as compared to other paint brands on the market. We take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation superior durability. Flamingo paint. Superior.
Simply dialing *4 with Direct 3 and 20 times your stake with Direct 1. You can also pay your numbers to win big. You only pick your numbers from 1 to 39, so winning is easy. Win every day with Day 1 539 Direct, the only lottery that offers you the best chances of winning. Collect your chop money every morning into your mobile wallet. Dial *446# to play Day 1 539 chop money now. Day 1,
The news that matters most is the news that hits closest to home.
When it breaks, we are there.
If it touches your family, your city, affects your expenditure, your decisions, as well as your safety, we've got it covered.
It's easy to just cover the news. What we are doing is different, creating a news experience that prepares you for anything. TV3 News, award-winning journalism, world-class quality, on TV and online, right at your doorstep. TV3, first in news.
Our mission here at TV3 is that the news comes first, and that's the promise of News Central.
With reporters every corner of the country.
Consignment to attend their action.
Team production, Golden Lions.
And experts across the subjects that affects you the most.
We stay across the big stories that impact you the most as they break, develop and evolve into major national issues.
With all angles covered across the country and across every subject. I am Kemini Amano.
And I am Eric Mawina Egbeta. News Central, coming soon on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
They say home is where
Eliza, are you sleeping on the job, girlfriend?
I was dreaming. I woke up to this nightmare.
Alyssa, an 18-year-old, runs away from home to escape the abuse and harassment of her stepfather.
Come any closer and I will cut you.
For a hope of a better life in the city and to pursue her dream of becoming a supermodel.
Hold on, wait a second. You're very pretty.
She soon finds out that achieving her dream will be a lot harder than she ever imagined. She gets caught up in a web of two men after her heart, a street vendor who believes in her dream and another who's making her dream happen.
You must be the famous Carolina Castillo.
How are you, dear? This is Lily, my beloved wife.
Watch the story unfold in Total Dreamer, a captivating, intriguing, and thrilling drama. Total Dreamer, showing Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by
MTN DES Shower Gel. Get ready to witness the most dramatic kitchen battle ever. Drama in the kitchen where rivalries simmer, egos sizzle, and only one rival can claim victory. Two rivals, spatulas in hand, egos on the line. It's not just about the food, it's about the drama. Can they put their differences aside to create the most loving meal, or will the heat of the kitchen prove too much to handle? Are you a wife or a husband? Are you a girlfriend or a boyfriend? Can you cook with your partner's ex in a bid to see whose meal tastes better? Or can you compete with your mother-in-law or father-in-law in the kitchen? Then this is the show for you. On Drama in the Kitchen, you get into the kitchen with your partner's ex or in-law and prove that you own his or her taste buds. So much drama and love in one kitchen. Be part of the Drama in the Kitchen experience by sharing your details via WhatsApp on 027-722-2641. Stay tuned for Drama in the Kitchen, coming soon to TV3.
Welcome back to the broadcast. Business News is up next. Manu Aful has the business news. Manu, over to you.
Thank you so much, Crosby. Welcome again to the business segment. My name is Manu Aful. In our first story, as Ghana grapples with ongoing challenges in debt sustainability, experts at this year's Ghana Economic Forum in Accra are calling for policies to ensure business growth and a sustainable economy. The forum, which was brought together by captains of the industry and thought leaders in civil society to discuss and deliberate key issues affecting the Ghanaian economy and offer solutions to help overcome the challenges. This is to enhance the achievement of the country's economic development plans. Banking consultant Dr. Richmond Etiahene is advocating for a constitutional review to address the country's borrowing practices. Well, economist Professor Peter Quartey has rejected the assertion that the economy has reached stability following the progress made with the IMF. Now, the IMF mission chief for Ghana, Stefan Rude, recently announced that the country has successfully completed its first review for an anticipated second tranche of $600 million. But speaking on business focus, Professor Quartey said inflation is still not at the desired level.
We've made progress, but I won't say we have achieved stability in the sense that where we even find inflation is not the desired level. Inflation is still very high compared to our peers. GDP growth, yes, we've seen some improvement. The last 2 quarters of 2023 shows we're growing around 3%, and we are likely to achieve same by end of year. Exchange rate has been relatively stable, so we see the fiscal. I think it's early days yet for us to celebrate. So I don't think we are on the path towards achieving stability, but I don't think we've reached the point where we can confidently say we've achieved stability.
Director of Business Operations at Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson, has observed the real value of the cedi will be revealed when government resumes servicing of its debts of external creditors. If Ghana secures assurances from its external creditors, this means that the country would have to resume servicing these debts.
Ended servicing of its debts since December 18 last year for the country to create some fiscal space to maneuver.
We stopped having to buy dollars to ship out to our creditors. And this has continued since last year and has been a really, really important reason why the dollar has stabilized up until now. But has it been stable up to now? Yes. Has it been partly a result of a policy intervention? A big yes. Is there a huge risk that the cedi will experience some volatility in the days ahead? The answer also is a big yes.
Director of Business Operations at Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson, expects debt service payments to resume at a lower rate compared to the rate before the suspension. He, however, thinks there will be pressure on the cedi, which could lead to significant depreciation of the local currency.
Debt servicing is zero pressure on the cedi. Whatever we start paying, it will add some pressure to the cedi. The challenge is this. Just now, we are about to conclude with the foreign debtors and on the treatment. And that conclusion will very well mean that we will now go back and start paying our debts, which will now put pressure on the city. Because right now, remember, debt servicing is zero.
Let's now cross over to Movenpick, where my colleague Michael Ogbodu is standing by to update us on the happenings at the Ghana Economic Forum. Michael, good afternoon. Can you briefly give us the highlights of the Economic Forum so far? Okay, so the Ghana Economic Forum is happening at the Movenpick Ambassador Hotel. My colleague Michael Ogbodu is live to give us all of the updates. Michael, can you hear me? Good afternoon. Okay, so Michael Ogbodu will be coming back to us to give us the live updates of what's happening. The Ghana Economic Forum is organized to discuss pending issues in the economy and suggest policy solutions to what will...
Coming to you live from Movenpick here in Accra, where the 12th Ghana Economic Forum is currently underway. As I speak to you at the moment, the second session, plenary session, is underway. Earlier, the Association of Ghana Industries former Finance Minister Seth Terkper was also on ground. Well, so yeah, former Finance Minister Seth Terkper was also part of the panel. The Association of Ghana Industries President, Dr. Humphrey Yim-Dake, was also part of the panel, where they had an extensive discussion, including the CEO of the Ghana Stock Exchange. They had an extensive conversation on various policies and ideas that they believe would be crucial in ensuring that the economy revamps and gets out of the current state that it is currently in. And those are among the conversations that have been held so far, in line with the theme about building back stronger and getting the economy back on track, Menu.
Dr. Richmond Etiahene has been making some comments about addressing the country's current economic challenges. Can you update us on what he's been saying?
As a country, must from today begin to look at the Constitution. And inside the Constitution, according to literature from the United Nations in 2014, the debt GDP of any developing country should not exceed 50%. And the developed countries are given a leeway of 60%. We find ourselves in this position because we have a constitution that has no business of setting a debt cap like the Americans have it. When the Americans have the cap and they have a trouble, they have to go to Congress. And when they go to Congress, you see how they suffer. So we need to come to the constitution and amend it as soon as possible. This is one of the shortest strategy that I'll recommend, so that we don't find ourselves in such a situation ever, never, ever again. Borrowing and borrowing for consumption. As I've always said in my literature, you pay through the nose, and Ghanaians are paying through the nose.
Well, those were updates from Movenpick Ambassador Hotel, where the Ghana Economic Forum is being held. That is how we bring the business segment on Midday Live to an end. My name is Menua Afo. Stay with us for more stories.
Welcome back to the program. Sports News is up next, and Kevin Oswansa has the details in sports. Kevin, good to see you.
Well, nice seeing you.
The Black Stars, they are in the news again.
Yes, we are getting ready for that game against Mexico on Saturday.
Anyways, bring us the details in sports.
My name is Kelvin Oswansa. On to our first story for this afternoon. Head coach of the Black Stars, Chris Hughton, and his assistant, George Boateng, have paid a visit to the training facilities at Charlotte FC, where the Black Stars will prepare for the friendly match against Mexico on Saturday, the 14th of October 2023. The Black Stars players are expected to start arriving in camp this evening to begin preparations for the international window that gives Ghana 2 games. Chris Hughton will play the USA 3 days later after the Mexico game, as he continues to fine-tune his team for next year's Africa Nations Cup and the World Cup qualifiers. Now to some more stories. Hoho United are playing in the Division 1 this season after they were granted approval by the Ghana Football Association. On Monday, the club signed a shirt sponsorship deal. My colleague Frank Champon has a lot more on this. Sponsorship has become a bit problematic when it comes to Ghana football, with investment very low. Some clubs have been forced out of operation, and Hohoe were given the ticket from West Africa Football Academy, who decided to decline the opportunity to play in Ghana's second-tier division. This gives a great opportunity for the club to get back into football.
In their bid to become a powerhouse in Ghanaian football, Hohoe United FC, a Division 1 club, have signed a deal with Verasure Insurance Brokerage Limited, who will be their shirt sponsor for the next 3 years. Speaking at the event, consultants of Verasure Insurance expressed how this would be a good deal for the club.
We're hoping that this partnership would be beneficial to both parties, and hopefully we could probably do beyond the years we have initially agreed to do.
According to Edem Anta, the CEO of the club, this deal would also boost the efforts to make sure they develop this club to the highest level.
Globally, you need top brands to develop football, to employ people, to build a structure that the fans will be excited about. We see it as an opportunity for the brand as well. The teaming fans will be excited to sign up to products, and together we can build a big club for the future.
Hohoe United FC will be gearing up for a place in the Premier League next season, and this deal will be a major boost in their quest.
Ghana Premier League and Asante Kotoko have climbed up to the top half of the Ghana Premier League table after defeating Accra Lions 1-0 at the Accra Sports Stadium on Monday. Let's hear from the Porcupines head coach, Dr. Prosper Natiogum, and Accra Lions technical head, Ibrahim Tanko, after the game. It was a very disappointing result, getting ready for some more action